How are we all going? You sing along, Brucey? You sing along, Tops? Come on, Bruce. Come on. He wants to dance. You want to dance too? ZZ Top, they were great. Went and saw them during the week. Good morning, good afternoon, or good evening, depending on what time you are tuning in. My name is Rachael Goldsworthy, and I'm on a journey to improve my life by 2 millimeters each and every week, and I want to do that with you. How are you? What have you been up to? Have you had a good week? Hey, Ange, how are you? Hi, Trude. What's going on? All of those little puppy dogs and birds that you've got in the backyard. Wonder how Elvis is going, and Dolly, I'm not too sure what she's up to. We've got a lot to get through, a lot to unpack tonight. I'm trying to make it as non-dry as possible, but it's pretty, talking about residential real estate and the changes with the legislation. It's not much fun. It's not like ZZ Top. I don't know whether you can see the shirt behind me, but yeah, the Elevation Tour. I went to see the Elevation Tour with Gemma on, can't remember which day it was, but we had a great time and we had a lot of fun. And I think we started our journey back in 2022 going to concerts. And yeah, Doobie Brothers was one of the first, not the first, but one of the first. And before that, we had quite a few different artists. But anyway, onwards and upwards today. What do we got going on? Gemma's quote was, "Success doesn't chase comfort. It builds where challenges live." And I think that is very true. And I've been listening to a lot of different motivational speakers over the last couple of weeks. And one in particular, Tony Robbins. I don't know whether any of you went to see Tony Robbins in the last 3 days. He did a 3-day live event, Thrive 2025. So I can pop in the links below if anybody wants that. Just let me know. And it's always good to, I've been to a lot of his events over the years. I think the first one I went to with Dad back in the 90s when Darling Harbour Convention Centre was there. So I think there was only about 2,000 people in the audience, but this particular one that he was doing, he had just shy of 1 million people online. I think it was 800,000, something like that they were talking about. So great event. And also Gabby Bernstein, she was on during the week. What a wonderful speaker, manifesting, masterclass, and just sort of how, you know, people navigate their lives and what to do in when you're wanting to call something into your life and do all of that. So I might touch on that later. I might not have enough time tonight, but I'll do what I can do to see what we can get through together. So what's everybody up to? Have you had a good start to the week? Monday's always a challenging one, isn't it? Sometimes it's not the start to people's week, but my quote of the week is, "Happiness is what happens to us when we try and make somebody else happy." These are quotes that I have in my office, and we like to swap them when we can, but sometimes we get stuck on one of them because it makes us feel good, and that's one in particular. So there we go. All right. Navigating the rental changes. It is, I mean, there was changes that came in October last year, and then again today it made it official that quite a few of the things that were going to be coming through have finally come through. And it's all about understanding those rental changes and how it affects you as a landlord or as a tenant. And I guess it's nothing to be scared about. It's just something that you've got to be aware of, those changes, because if you're not, you know, you don't flow in life with confidence in what you're doing. And I just wanted to give you a bit of an overview of the reforms tonight, and also how it's going to impact you one way or the other, and just give you some guidelines, some general guidelines. I may not cover off on all of the items, but if there's anything that I haven't covered off on and you'd want some further advice, just either direct message me or you can send me an email at rentals@rachelgoldsworthy.com.au, or alternatively you can give the office call 4577 9964. And of course you can message or comment below, and I'm live, so I'm happy to answer any questions. If I see your comments come up, I'm happy to do that if I'm not mid-flow of the sentences here. So a lot of the reforms that they've been talking about is centred around terminations and pets, and just different things that, you know, the time frame of terminations and what people can and can't do. And no grounds terminations, they're now phased out. So an agent can't give you a no grounds termination, which is basically a termination without giving a reason. Now a reason has to be given, and it needs to be a reasonable reason to be able to allow that termination to proceed. So has anyone ever been terminated, or has anyone ever been faced with a situation when you're renting a property? Sometimes it's hard to know which way to go. Hey Pete, how are you? Nice to have you on the line. We were talking about ZZ Top before, and you would have been really enjoying the drummer and Billy, the lead singer of ZZ Top. But why were they abolished? What they're trying to do, the changes in the law, they're trying to make it a fairer playground for everybody, and whether it's fair or not, I guess you can be the judge of that. Tonight we're going to cover off on whether you get your pets approved, the steps to get the pets approved, and whether a landlord can or cannot refuse your pet when you're renting a property, the process of the approval and non-approval, rental payment options, there's been some changes with that, and how you can have secure transactions. Hi Tanya, how are you? Nice to have you on the line. Reasons for ending tenancies and what the acceptable grounds for terminations are, and the tenant's rights when facing an eviction or a termination, and how to challenge those unfair evictions or how to challenge those terminations if they come up. And the new thing that's come in as well is reletting restriction timeframes, which is an interesting one which I will touch on. It's timeframes for around the termination and reasons around that, and tenant protections against unfair reletting of that property if they have been terminated. Number 7, notice periods to be given, which is kind of what I was just talking about, but whether it's gone from 30 days, 60 days, 90 days, and what happens if those notice periods aren't followed. Keeping a pet in a rental property, what to do, how to get your pet approved. Everybody loves living with their puppy dogs. I've got my 2 puppy dogs, as you saw before. Bruce loves ZZ Top as well. So ensuring compliance with the pet regulations and ensuring it's fair for all parties. And payment methods. You want to make sure that you've got options for payment methods, and also secure payment methods. So that's what it's all about, isn't it? All right, so what we'll do is we'll just go through these bits and pieces. Some are old legislation and some is new legislation for you, but depending on what your circumstances are, it may be relevant for you. So what's changing? There's a few things that are changing, and as I said, it's more around the termination process and pets in property, and even in particular strata as well. The changes are giving the end of the lease that termination time frame change, which is the main thing. It's making it easier to keep a pet in a rental home, which is encouraging to see, and limit the increases of rentals for 1 per year, 4 years. So you're not going to get a consistent, if the rental market is really hot, you're not going to get that rental increases on a regular basis. And also preventing the extra fees at the start of the tenancy, because some agents do charge for application processes or stamp duty or background checks of some sort, or preparing the tenancy agreement, that sort of thing. That's all been taken out, and ensure the tenants are able to do a bank transfer safely as well. Why the laws are changing? The government said that it's based on a fairer and a fairer system and improve the processes for both landlords and tenants. I guess after this you may make your own mind up as to whether it's fair or not, and I'd love to get your comments below as to whether you've been faced with the change of legislation and whether it's gone in your favour or against you, or whether you think it's fair or not fair. The changes took effect as of October 2024, as I said, and also moreover today, 19th of May 2025, if you're watching this on a replay. And the main things are you're requiring a reason. There's three things mainly. One is requiring a reason to terminate the tenancy. Make it easier. Number two, make it easier for pets to be approved at properties and have pets with you. And also the third one, to ensure tenants can transfer their funds securely and safely and have options to pay and don't get charged for those options to pay. Because as of today, or as of yesterday, they were all things that were in play. So let me just grab a glass of water if that's all right. I'm still getting over this. I'm sorry, people. I'm still getting over this cough. Not contagious, but it's just hanging around. I know some people have had it for months, and I'm really thankful that it's just only a cough. So that's a good thing, isn't it? Rent increases. That's not new. You can't increase the rent more than one time in every 12 months. So if you've been approached by your agent or the landlord and they're wanting to increase the rent at the end of your lease, if it's a 6-month lease or so forth, they can only do that once a year. So I think that's fair, given the... Sorry, I keep on hitting this. I'll put it down here so I'll make it a little bit easier. Yeah, I think it's a bit fairer for all parties, because sometimes when the rental market is hot, it's always, well, should we put the rent up or not? And I like to think the tenants that I've got in properties, you like to look after them. If they look after the property and they're good tenants, and you want it to be fair and equitable for all parties. So regardless of the rental market, I try and keep it pretty even keel, and if they're looking after, I don't do major increases on those rental properties. It's just that's a personal preference. You may want to put that rental price up each year, and that's also to keep in line with what's going on with the marketplace. So you've got that option to increase the rent or not increase the rent. It's up to you completely. Reasons to end a tenancy. That's the next big thing. So there used to be a no grounds, so you could give 90 days no grounds and a tenant could be terminated from a lease, and they would have to move out without a landlord giving a reason or without an agent giving a reason. But with the new legislation change, they're requesting that you make sure that you give a reason. Now that reason, there's a multitude of reasons, but they have to be genuine in their approach. And there's a few different options which I'll run through with you. It's in the case of a breach. So if there's a lease that hasn't been followed by the tenant, or the landlord in that case, you get issued a breach, and then you can be terminated in that regard. If the property is being offered for sale and the owner wants to move back in, both of those are relevant. All of these have timeframes on them though, so there'll be reletting restrictions on those, and I'll go into that as well, but I'll just cover off on the reasons first. Any significant repairs. So if you're doing a bathroom renovation, or if you're doing a kitchen renovation and you've got to make sure that the property is up to speed for the next tenant, that's a reasonable excuse. If the landlord or the family intend to move back to the property, and it's a genuine, you are moving back to the property, you can't just say, oh, we're moving back to the promise, we'll terminate those tenants and then we'll put new tenants in there. You won't be able to do that under this new legislation. If the tenant lives there as part of their employment and their employment ends, so we've got some farmers that have managers that manage the acreage properties that we run. We've got some studs that have some managers that run those studs. We've also got, I guess, key workers, key healthcare workers. Same sort of scenario. The tenant's no longer eligible for affordable housing and transitional housing. That's another reason for termination. Or the housing is purpose-built for student accommodation and the tenant's no longer a student. The property is part of a key worker housing program and needs to be used for key worker like a teacher, healthcare or police, as I said. So there are a couple of reasonable excuses, I should say, no, reasons for somebody to be terminated from a lease. Landlords who want to end the lease need to give the tenants a termination notice with the information statement. It's all pretty straightforward. It's all the sorts of things that you would normally do. You would issue a termination notice within the time frame required. There's a certain amount of days that it has to be, and you also have to take in public holidays and those sorts of things when you're doing that. I always like to give the tenants a call too before the termination's issued, because it's nice to get that call from the agent going, hey, this is what's going on, this is what's about to happen. Can we help you relocate somewhere else? Because you may have another property, they've been great tenants of the property and you want to help them relocate somewhere else and you don't want to lose them. So, and it also softens the blow for the tenant. And the other thing I don't like doing is giving termination notices on a Friday afternoon so that they've got the whole weekend to be stressed about it and unable to contact the agent, have that conversation that can just allay their fears, that you're able to transition them from one home to another and help them with that process, because they'll obviously need their tenant ledgers, they'll need other bits and pieces to be able to do their process, and they need to be supported through that process as well. Hey Jem, how are you? Nice to have you on the line. Hi Les, how are you? Nice to have you on the line. And yeah, so landlords must provide the supporting documentation as well. So it's all good and well to say that you want to terminate a tenant, but you also have to back that up with the facts. So if the property is being sold, for example, you've got to have a contract for sale in place. You also have to have the buyer that's coming through in relation to that, and all sorts of other things. So you may have the property that's going to be demolished, so there's major renovations going on or a build going on, so that's certainly something that would need to be done. And if the home is no longer being used as a rental, yeah, Jem's saying there's so many new changes. Absolutely there is, and there's heavy penalties that apply to landlords and agents if they don't follow this protocol, and also provide the appropriate termination notice for the tenants. And non-genuine grounds, if they're issued, well, they will get found out, and we don't support that. We want to make sure that both the landlord and the tenant is supported through these processes, and it's fairly straightforward. It's all started as of today, so we take that very seriously and we want to support each and every one of you. Reletting restriction, this is another interesting one, because with renovations or with no longer living in a property, proposed sale of the premises, the landlord family member moving in, there's timeframes attached to that. So those ones are 6 months. So you're unable to relet that property for a period of 6 months if you have in fact said that you're going to be having a family member move back in, or if you've got a proposed sale of premises, or if you no longer using the property as rental premises, or if that's your reason that you're giving, that's a 12-month reletting restriction. So they're sort of adding on to that to, I guess, stop people from reletting a property after they've terminated a tenant on a non-genuine matter. If there's significant repairs or renovations, that's a 4-week change. So the reletting restrictions on that is 4 weeks. So it's really good to stay on top of all of this. It sounds a little bit confusing, and there's lots of different reasons and timing, and if you're unsure, we're always here to support you. So, you can pop in the comments below if you need a hand, or direct message if you've got a specific question that you wanted to ask, or you can always ring our office as well, because we're here to help you. The notice periods for ending a lease, that's an interesting one too, because tenants must give enough notice, or must be given enough notice when they're, leaving a property, but also a landlord needs to give that notice period. For a periodic lease, it's at least 90 days notice, which is a change with what we've been doing as well. There has been some leases that have been 30 days, 60 days, 90 days for different reasons. But now for a fixed term lease of 6 months or less, at least 60 days notice needs to be given. Whereas if it's that 12 months, it's the extra 30 days that need to be given within that lease. So a few things to think about in relation to this. And obviously, if there's a breach of the lease, that's going to be a shorter time frame for the termination. But equally, we've got some really good tenants, so I can't imagine them having any breaches with what they're doing there. And longer notice periods provide tenants with much needed additional time, because when you're moving, you're trying to get boxes together, you're trying to get all your stuff together that you've collected over the years, you've got to move kids with schools, you've got to make sure that that lines up with different opportunities for the children to be in the right school at the right time, and the terms that they may be going from one to another. You may have a job that you're moving into. You may have different things in relation to that. So really important to have that there. And yeah, so they're the notice periods that sort of we covered off on that for you. Keeping a pet. Oh, Topsy, what do you think about that? Come up here, Toppy. No, she's not going to come up. She doesn't think much about keeping a pet. She doesn't consider herself. She considers herself a family member. Hey, Tony, how are you? Nice to have you on the line. I'm going to catch up with Chloe later on during the week, and we're going to have a look at that property for her. So hopefully it's going to be the one for them. Hey, Jax, how are you? Nice to have you on the line. Thanks for joining us. There's been a few people that have been on the line that know all about these changes in the legislation, but it can be a little bit sticky to navigate. But rest assured, we'll help you through that, and there's not a major problem with the changes. But one of the changes that is good in that you can keep a pet, and the new laws make it easier for tenants to have that opportunity to have the homing of their pet. There's a couple of rules and regulations around that, and one of them is if the owner, because I know that there's been a lot of people that will request to have a pet, and whether it's a dog or a cat, a fish, a bird, we've had all sorts of requests over, donkeys, fish, horses, axolotls, we've had ferrets, we've had rats, we've had pigeons, we've had, you name it, we've had the requests that are put through. But sometimes landlords don't know what to do with that. But in this new legislation, they don't have an opportunity to not respond. So they can't think about it and just leave it at that. They actually have to respond within 21 days, or ultimately that approval is given. So that's a good thing. And on the flip side of that, the tenant can only have up to 4 animals at the property if it's seen as an unreasonable. Beyond that is unreasonable. I know that there was some case law around a townhouse, and somebody wanted a pony to be held in the townhouse, and they did. They housed the pony, small pony, in a 2-story or 1-story townhouse. So it's upstairs and downstairs, and crazy as it seems, it was done. But that would deem to be unreasonable, having a pony in a townhouse. But who am I to judge? If the property is unsuitable for the animal, so in that circumstance I believe it would be, or a lack of open space for that animal, because it would harm the animal's welfare. And I think that would be the case if there was even a Great Dane or something like that. A larger dog would not necessarily suit a townhouse, unless, for example, the owner was going to walk that dog morning and afternoon, or once a day, or whatever the parameters were for that, but just for the animal's welfare. If it's probable that the animal is going to cause more damage to the property, that's a reasonable excuse as far as, not excuse, I keep saying excuse. This new legislation, it's interesting for all of us, and maybe it's a little bit challenging for all of us to read and listen to, but yeah, we'll work through it together. If the landlord lives at the property, so they have an option to not allow a pet, that's one reason that they could say no to housing an animal. Or keeping the animal would break the local and federal laws, local council rules, strata or community scheme bylaws, or residential community rule. You've got to be really careful around those bylaws and the residential community rules as well, because quite often the bylaws are not in alignment with the current legislation of that strata plan. So you really need to check with your strata manager. We're one of the last strata managers in the Hawkesbury, so we would be more than happy to help you with that, because we know it can be confusing around the bylaws for the strata property. Another reason the tenant can't keep a pet is the tenant did not agree to a reasonable condition keeping the animal. So if the animals aren't being kept, an RSPCA have to be involved, or something similar to that, or it's just not conducive to the animal's welfare. So there's limits on kinds of conditions a landlord may ask for. And one thing I encourage too is landlords aren't able to charge that bond, that pet bond, which I think was unfair, because for all intensive purposes, your pet is like a family member. You look after that family member and you want it to be at the house with you. Sometimes pets do things that you don't necessarily want them to do, like my little Topsy. She has chewed the edges of my furniture on the cabinet behind me, down at the bottom on the legs. She just sort of, every now and then she has a little bit of a nibble, and quite easily it could have been the deck at somebody's rental property if I was renting premises, or it could have been the balustrades of the staircase in a townhouse if I was renting a townhouse. And you don't want your pet to be chewing things up, or digging holes in the backyard, or creating problems in the fence, or banging on the fence because they want to play with the dog next door through to the neighbour's property. But yeah, so you can't ask for a pet bond, which I think is a good thing. Excuse me, I'm just going to have a glass of water again. Pardon me. So I said it's very dry material tonight, but just the same, it's necessary. And equally, if a tenant doesn't agree with the decision that's made around that, so if you've been refused, but you wanted to keep your pet and you believe that it was unreasonable grounds that you were refused to have your pet, you can take your application to tribunal and have it heard there, or you could potentially speak to the strata committee as to the reasoning behind why they've knocked back the pet, and check the bylaws, and you could get some advice from a strata lawyer or a strata manager in relation to that as well. The third thing that has changed with the legislation is the payment of rent. So landlords and agents need to offer tenants options of payments. And with a bank transfer, there sometimes used to be fees associated with that. We don't charge our tenants those fees, and you can't under legislation now. So you have to have that option to be able to charge without any additional fees. And this change started today, so it's only a new thing, and it applies to existing leases that were in place before the changes started. So it's not only new leases that are going to be entered into, it's about old leases that are being entered in, or have already been entered into. And in future, landlords and agents will need to offer the rent payment via the Commonwealth Government Centre Pay. Landlords and agents will not need to register for Centre Pay unless the tenant chooses to have that method of payment. The other thing too is that if both the tenant and the landlord agree, the tenant may opt for other options to be able to do that. So there's different things that you can do around that. And I think anything in life, isn't it? It's all about relationships. It's all about... I'm not having a very good relationship with my with my phone tonight, but that's okay. This keeps on jumping up and down because I keep on hitting this little cord here. Yeah, so new rules. Holding fee for a property, that hasn't changed, the 1 week's rent. You can only ask for the rental payment around the term of the lease. So if it's 1 week, it's 1 week. If it's 2 weeks, it's paid fortnightly. Or if it's monthly, it's that time frame. And if it's a fixed term lease of 3 years or more, the fee for registering the lease within New South Wales tenancy. Background checks, preparing... Pardon me. I'm really sorry about the cough, people, but necessary evil coming into winter, isn't it? Too much talking. It's only Monday. Background checks, preparing the lease agreements, property viewings. Has anyone ever been charged any of those fees? Initial keys or access devices, so if you've got a pool or if you've got a remote for the garage, if you've only got one remote and you want 2 remotes, pet bonds, any other fees and charges, they're out. You can't be charged any of those fees. So if you are being charged those fees, ask your agent, go through the new legislation with them and clarify. And this rule applies to whether someone's applied for a property or whether they've signed a rental agreement. So I know some agents will charge upfront fees to do those background checks and so forth. They won't be able to do that now. So that's another encouraging thing for tenants, and they're able to move forward with that. A couple of other things too in relation to the new legislations is water efficiency. That came in this year, and improving water efficiency in the properties. So you've got to make sure you've got dual flush toilets, meeting the water efficiency measures, and you can't charge water unless you've got that certification. So if you don't check all of those things, I mean, local plumbers will be able to support that for you. They can give you a certification. We also have 2 companies that specialise in that, so we can get that done fairly quickly for you. But the next quarter's coming around fast for Sydney Water, so make sure you've got that certification for your water efficiency measures that are in place, because if you don't, you can't charge the water. It's against legislation. There's massive fines. So we wouldn't recommend that. All toilets on the property need to be dual flush. So at the top of the toilet, the cistern, just behind where you sit, there's those 2 buttons. Sometimes there's a single button. If it's a single button, you're going to have to change your toilet or change the way in which it flushes, so it's a dual flush. And a minimum of a 3-star rating. For cold water and single taps, a maximum flow rate of 9 litres. That hasn't changed too much. Basically, if you put a bucket underneath the tap and you've got a maximum flow of 9 litres up to that 1 minute, you're going to comply with legislation. But you need to have that certification to be able to charge the water. You can't just say, okay, well, I've got this and it's all good and we're done. Shower heads are another thing that come under that, making sure that you've got the 9 litres per minute. And no leaking taps or showers or toilets, all those sorts of things. So those annoying drips in the middle of the night from the shower, and you can hear this doink, doink, or you can hear the toilet flushing. You know, once somebody uses the toilet and flushes it, and sometimes you hear that running water behind the scenes. Can't have any of that. So your property would not comply. Or as a tenant, you would want to get that fixed, because that's going to increase the water charge that you're going to get from Sydney Water. So I think that's that one. And then the other thing is, you can only have that charge charged to you within a 3-month period. So if a landlord comes to you 12 months after the water bill's been issued to them, they just forgot to issue it to you, and, oh, I'm really sorry, here's the water bill, and just pay that. A landlord can't ask you to pay that. You have to be issued that water bill within a 3-month period of it issuing. And you've given 21 days notice to pay that bill. So what we normally do, we get the bill from Sydney Water, we issue it straight away. You've got 21 days to pay that as a tenant. That's really seamless. It's a nice, easy way to do things. But equally, as I say, if anybody's coming to you 12 months after, or even 4 months after, 5 months after the bill was issued, they can't charge you that water. So just make sure that that's done. And another consideration, if you don't, some of the houses in the Hawkesbury, they're really old. So you've got some heritage homes that don't have houses that would necessarily comply. You've got some properties that have got water tanks that don't need the certification. But with those older homes, you may want to consider what the cost is of transferring over, or whether they've got a cistern or a toilet or taps that would suit that era of home. I live in a heritage style building, and it's an older style, but I was able to find Dave's Windsor. There's a restoration place, and they've got Windsor Restorations. They've got some beautiful things. So I've got lovely vanities and baths and tapware and all that's in keeping with the local area and the local heritage items. But equally, that's something to consider. If you can't find the taps, you can't find the vanity, or if you can't find the toilet, or those sorts of things that are going to comply with that 9 litres per minute, you may want to consider, okay, well, I just won't charge the tenants water, but I won't do the upgrades. So that's an option for you. If you don't have the funds available to do the construction or the upgrades, that's something to think about. So I think that's about all with the legislation. I mean, there's a bunch of other things that are going on as well, but that's pretty much the mashup of what it is. Mainly the pets, the termination periods, and the reason to terminate. And those periods of time. So if you are reletting the property, make sure you don't breach the time frames on that. The 4 weeks, the 6 months, the 12 months. So if you're moving into the property, or if you're doing renovations, you've got to wait that time out. You can't just move into the property or relet the property to another tenant once you've terminated a tenant. You have to honour that time frame, and the fair trading is very particular about that. So, which is good to see. Yeah, so I think that's about it for the legislation. Very dry material. Thank you for those that you've stayed strong to the cause. If anybody has any questions or concerns with the new legislation or what to do with your property, I'm here for you. But I finished short on that one. I thought it would take longer, but I thought I might just talk about raspberry slices, because that's what got me through over the weekend. I've been going through some of the recipes. Like on Anzac Day, I had the Anzac biscuits with Mum, and we did a bit of a cook up together, and that was great. You know, she taught me how to bake them, because you know you have Anzac biscuits, some can be drier or some can be chewier, and some can be a bit more golden brown, and then others are, you know, quite light. So it all depends on the cook, on your oven, and the ingredients, and the type of ingredients, and the brands that you use. And I just wanted to get the taste and the flavours right, because you know, those cakes are just amazing. My mum's a really good cook, and if I could make half of the things that she makes, well, it would do me proud. But basic things in this one, really simple. Plain flour, the old coconut, caster sugar, I don't know, good old Western butter. I love the Western butter, especially on bread. I can't have bread at the moment. I'm on that carb thing, 75 hard, and free-range eggs. So basically, all you do is you sort of mix the dry ingredients, and you make that base. And so it's like the flour and a few other, and the butter obviously, and the caster sugar, I think it is, or something like that. And then we pushed it all down. Mum and I pushed, well, not, she didn't help me with this one, I did this one by myself, but I pushed this into the baking tray, and then you bake that for 15 minutes. Goes straight into the oven. I'm telling you as though I really know what I'm doing. I don't. I'm not a very good baker, but I'm giving it my best shot and having a bit of fun doing it just the same. And then once that's baked, it goes golden brown, 15 minutes in the oven. Then it comes out, and then you mix the coconut with an egg or 2 eggs, something similar to that. And I think that's where the sugar comes in. Yeah, the sugar goes into that. And then that all goes into one little pan. And then in between what you've packed down and what's cooked, so that base that, you know, it's a nice little shortbread at the base. Not really shortbread, but sort of is a bit of a shortbread. But you scoop in half a cup of raspberry jam. I've got this really particular raspberry jam that I like. So I poured that in and just spread it out. And it's on just like a 16 by 26 baking tray, so nothing big. And then the base tray was on baking powder, so that baking paper, so it made it easier to get out of the pan. So I put the raspberry jam on, and then with that mix of caster sugar, the desiccated coconut and the egg, beat that all up and it goes a bit mushy and so forth. And then you just pour that on the top, and it's just sort of like fluff it about. I'll put a photo up in the comments so you can see the way it turned out. I was pretty happy with it, actually. It was probably a bit drier than what Mum's is, but that's probably because I left it in the oven a little bit longer, because with my oven, I've got an old St. George oven. It's old as the hills, but I don't want to get rid of it because I love it, because it goes in with the same look of the house and, you know, old things. I sort of think if it's not broken, don't try and fix it. But yeah, the old St. George oven. I don't know whether she's up to temperature or not, so it sometimes takes a little bit longer and I can't quite judge it. But at least I got the flavours pretty well bang spot on. It's just the consistency. So Mum's is a little bit more moist. No, a lot of people don't like that word. But anyway, I said it. So my slice was a little bit more less moist than Mum's slice, and but yummy just the same. So good with a cup of tea, but no more of that because I'm on the 75 hard now. I failed miserably in the last couple of weeks, I must say to you. I've been trying, it's just the cold weather and all of the carbs come out. I made a beautiful soup on the weekend. I just chucked a whole 2 lamb shanks in the pot with some onions and vegetables and a mix of lentils and beans and all sorts of other things, and stirred that up, and wheat and barley and all of that, all the good stuff for your tummy. And nothing like a bit of sourdough to go with that. So I toasted up some sourdough, put the soup together, and then had those raspberry slices, and yeah, so having a bit of fun. Next, I'm going to try the melting moments. So that will be my next little thing that I'm doing. But yeah, maybe next week I'll talk about the manifesting, because it's been great. I really enjoyed listening to the talk on the manifesting masterclass, and it's just all about setting the intention, isn't it? And it doesn't matter. I mean, everyone knows my calendar, the Live, Love, Big Life, and trying to do is fit as much in as I possibly can. I probably don't do as many things as I could do, but I could, like all of us, we get busy, or we like to relax sometimes, or... But this week I'm going to go and see the movie with, do you know David Attenborough? I think he's like in his 90s, 97, 96. Somebody else may be able to pop in the comments below. Couldn't believe it. He's been wonderful, like just listening to him over the years. And I grew up with, you know, listening to those stories of animals and where they came from and what type of animal it is. And he's just so knowledgeable, and wonderful photography and videography. And one of my friends is actually a videographer for, they do the videos of whales, blue sperm whales, and whale sharks, and great white sharks. So you never know, I might go swimming with the great white sharks in the open water. We'll wait and see. That might be on the bucket list. But I'm also thinking about sailing. I've been watching this young gentleman. It's Sailing Adventures with Oliver. Oliver's this gentleman's cat, and he's sailing around the world. He's going from Oregon at the moment to, I think it's Oregon, to Hawaii. And each day he posts online and what he's doing, and I just think, how brave is that, and how courageous is that of him to be doing that, and then to put it online. And it started as he had a medical condition that he thought, you know what, I'm just going to leave the corporate world. He was 11 years in corporate world, and he's only young. He must be in his 30s, I'd say, at the most. And he gave up his corporate job, sold everything, cashed in his super, bought himself a sailing yacht, and embarked on this journey to travel around the world. So what a wonderful thing to do. And he's on his way to Hawaii as we speak. And he, funnily enough, with his social media, he reached out to his friends, and then obviously his friends shared it to other people. And then Microsoft got in touch with him because he does little things with Copilot, Microsoft Copilot, which is like AI, artificial intelligence, that can help you with different tasks that you do, or if you want to look something up or you want to find something out. It's similar to Google, but it's on steroids. And he draws pictures of his cat sitting in the captain's chair with the captain's hat on, sailing this yacht with him. And it's just a bit of fun. And everybody's really encouraging with his journey. He did a GoFundMe. I think he made $70,000 already just for that alone. And Copilot has sponsored him for his next leg from, once he gets to Hawaii, to his next location. So, which is, I think it's Portugal maybe. Well, what a wonderful thing to do. So, pardon me, life is too short not to do the things that you want to do. So go out there and enjoy them. I'm going to focus on the manifestation. We've been doing so much in the office. We've been changing so many different things. It's been wonderful. It's been the best year for doing all of that. And it's just leaning into that, because they're things that you've been putting off sometimes, and sometimes those things that you know that you've been putting off, but if you lean into them, you go, oh gosh, that wasn't that hard after all. Like, we've been going to electronicize our documents forever and a day, and we've literally just done all of that, and everything's online now. And so many different changes, like even the office and the way the layout is. The girls have got the desks set out the way that they want them, and just getting an open plan layout for that, because they all love working together. And we've got a few in the crew in the office, so you just got to make a space work. We don't have that big a space, but it's big enough for what we do, and it's kind of nice to be able to have your colleagues there and not chat all the time, because that's one thing that I lose concentration. I can only do one thing at a time, but we've got a rule now. We sort of put our earbuds in if we all don't, if we've got to get in the zone to get something done. But then, when you're out of the zone and you want to have a bit of fun, there's a round table that we're going to be bringing upstairs to have a lunch together and those sorts of things. So it's a really nice camaraderie, a great place. I love going to work with the girls. And it's like anything, though, you always, you can have a bit of fun, but sometimes there's some tough moments that you've got to get through as well. But that's all part and parcel of life, isn't it? It's all ebbs and flows, and good days and not so good days, and just working together to find those solutions for each client and each other, really. Because sometimes, there's things that happen in your life. Big shout out to Wendy. I'm sorry to hear the news of your dad. He was a wonderful man, and you and your family, I hope all's well with you, and we'll catch up with you soon. So condolences to you and the family. We've also had some other people in hospital face reconstruction. We've had a motorbike accident. So big shout out to you, Shane. I hope the road to recovery is fast for you and not as furious on the motorbikes. You need to slow down on those motorbikes, maybe. You came off second best against the rock and the tree, hey? Rachael, big shout out to you. Broken wrist, I don't know. So many things that have been. There's, I think it was Pluto in retrograde at the moment. So maybe after the flower moon, everybody was sort of out there, the energy of the moon. And with the energy of the moon, it can be quite intense. So, it's quite full on with that. But I think now we've got the waning of the moon. So there's just that flow down, just some relaxed energy, and just sort of leaning into that. So that's why I'm sort of looking at that manifestation, so you can use the energy of the moon as it sort of doesn't illuminate so much, and then the energy wanes, and then as the energy grows again, you can use that energy to create new ideas or create new projects at work, or embark on a new hobby, or embark on catching up with friends for coffee, or catching up with family and dinners, and cooking with Mum. Hey Mum, how are you? Nice to have you on the line. I always love having Mum on the line. She was the first one that ever jumped onto one of my lives, I think, and I really appreciate you and your cooking skills. I was only talking about your raspberry coconut slice, which I think you'll be okay about me sharing the recipe online, but I think it turned out okay. It wasn't like yours. but I got a few more years to practice to catch up to your exceptional cooking skills. So next week might do a session on the manifestation and thriving in 25, because we're almost halfway through the year, and I think each and every one of us, we've had a lot of projects on, and I know we have, and sometimes you forget what you've achieved, really, because it's just been such a whirlwind with the timing. And I know January comes along and you sort of look at the year ahead and you think you're going to do all these things, and that's why I've got my calendar up, because it just helps me visualize what I've got for the year ahead and what things I get to look forward to, and what things that I may not look forward to and know I've got to do, but it's just part and parcel of what it is. Because I think it's those daily disciplines that serve us well with what we're doing in life. And I know with me, it's been a game changer for what I've done. And like this morning, I didn't want to get up and ride the bike, but I did 45 minutes and got on the bike, and I don't think I've ever regretted doing a workout after the workout. It's just getting up earlier to do the workout before work and those sorts of things. But then you reward yourself with going to the movies and seeing, I think it's called The Ocean with David Attenborough, so I'm looking forward to that. I purchased Air Supply tickets, so I don't know of those who were going to see Air Supply. I'm so excited. 50th anniversary. A lot of these guys and girls are coming out there. The 50th anniversary crew, like Kiss, Gemma from The Office, she's my work daughter, and I'm her work mum, as a lot of people say. They think that we're related. We often go to the concerts together, and there's been some great concerts. We've got lots of different ones coming up, so some jazz as well, and some blues, and also some rock and roll type of bands. So I'll pop in the comments below as to which ones that we're going to. So if you wanted to join along with us, I think Air Supply is I think it's sold out in Sydney now. There might be some tickets still in Melbourne and maybe in Brisbane, I'm not too sure. So try your luck with that, but don't miss out on them if you did want to see them, because I think some of these bands they may not come back, so you want to catch them whilst you can. And lastly, how are you all going? Are you all well? Are you leaning into the year? What's the year looking like for you? And I guess with the changes in whether it's legislation or your life or different things that you're planning, whether it's a new job or maybe a new house, some of the people online, I can see that they're looking at purchasing a new house. Maybe it's a new pet. You might be with the legislation, you think, I can get a pet now. So I might go out and get a cat or a dog, or go to the local, is it the RSPCA pound, whatever it might be, and get yourself a beautiful little animal there. Might be doing many other things, taking up a hobby of some sort. As I say, I've been toying with the idea of sailing. So maybe not during the winter months, but maybe when it gets, heading into autumn. Just after winter, the springtime. I think that'll be a nice time to start. I did a course with husband and wife, and it's called Sail Exchange, and they came up with a brilliant idea. And basically, they have sails of ships and yachts, and if you don't use the sails all the time, you can swap them out or change them, or if you're going racing for one specific time, or you might be doing leisure boating, or you might be doing sailing for different reasons. So, yeah, just a brilliant idea. So big shout out to you, Carl, and your family. I'll be in touch with them and seeing which way to go with that. But also the other thing that I'm going to lean into too is with the cooler weather, getting on the water with the kayak, because living close to the Hawkesbury River, as much as it's like anything, if you live in the bush, you've got the fire risk. If you live by the river, you've got the flood risk. But if you mitigate against that risk and you know what your worst case scenario is, I have had water in, not this house that I'm living in, but investment properties that I've got, and doing things like putting carpet tiles down and numbering the tiles so it's easier to bring them off, or putting villa board instead of gyprock and those sorts of things. So just to mitigate against the risk when you're living in floodwaters. But as I say, leaning into it, thinking about a lot of different things this year, and I think losing some weight. And I don't tell you this to brag, but I just tell you to, if you wanted to lean into it and learn from it like I did, it was a great experience because, you know, the exercise and just the sleep regimes and drinking the water. And I'm struggling today. I've still got this much to go. And I think I'll be peeing all night. I really do. But it's just those daily disciplines, as I say, you know, waking up, and whether it's going for a walk, taking the dogs for a walk, or getting out on the kayak, going sailing, or taking the kids in the park for a play, or going to the sand pit, the local Flying Fox over at Government Park. They've got a great park there. You can go for a walk in the local parks, in the malls when you've got the markets. The markets are on down. They're doing all of that work in the local malls, so the markets are on down by the river. That's really nice. Just doing different things for yourself and getting out and amongst it all, catching up with friends for coffee or family for dinners, lunches, whatever it might be for you. And just manifesting that world and that place that you want to be and where you want to be in life, because life goes by regardless of whether we do things or not. So we all have a choice. We've all got the same 24 hours a day. It's just a matter of leaning into what you want to do. Project that we're working on, which I heard also from Remakery, I think we're going to do Live, Love, Art. So there might be some art studios set up in the mall once all of that's tidied up. As I say, I think they're working towards the middle of the year, so June, July to be completed with all of that. And then I'm looking forward to doing that Live, Love, Art project, Liz, so definitely put me down for that. And we'll sponsor some events there and get that done. And I'm really, really looking forward to that. There's some pottery classes that people, the staff, were all going to go and do one of the local pottery classes. So if anybody wants to join in with any of these things with us, whether they want to come to a concert with us, or if you're thinking about sailing, I mean, that sounds a bit extravagant, doesn't it? I'm not talking about fancy sailing. I'm talking about, you know, just a basic yacht and just some friends going out and having a bit of fun. Kayaking, if you like kayaking, I've got spare kayaks if anybody wants to come along. I've got, we're looking at doing some overnight kayaking and, what is it? Yeah, overnight kayaking and camping. So just locally, nothing fancy, go down to the Colo River or go up the river in Hawkesbury or down into Yarramundi or some of those local places that are just so beautiful that you don't get to see from the road. You know, it's just like going with a local tour guide. You know, you can just enjoy the sights together and explore the world with each other. And I think that's so important, that connectivity of a community, the local community. So the Live, Love, Art project, we've got some other projects that we're working on. I've got another book coming out this year, as I say. And I'm also tempted to do another book, which is a shorter version of a different style that I've never done before, but I'll share that with you as we get closer to it. But the other one will be more of a journal style that you're used to. You've seen that, and it is due out at the end of the year, so I'm looking forward to that. And then the other one, which will probably only be a shorter book, but it might be inspired by this new cooking venture. So let's wait and see. Pop in the comments below if you're doing anything different or interesting or just stuff that you love doing. Whatever it is, it's great to share it. And sometimes you never know, that one thing that you share, that one thing that you talk about, that one idea, whether it's legislation, which can be a bit boring, whether it's doing a new hobby, or whether it's catching up with somebody, or, you know, talking about movies or concerts or family catch-ups. It just may inspire somebody to do something like that, or to hang around with other people like-minded, and that's a nice thing to do. So we're almost halfway through the year. I'd love to hear about what you're achieving and where you're at in your life. And yeah, I'll keep you posted as to what I'm doing as well. And if you want more of these sorts of videos, let me know. If you want more on real estate, let me know. If you want more on other things, let me know. Because I'm happy to talk about whatever direction that you need me to talk about. Because I started the 2mm probably selfishly, in the sense that I wanted to improve my life, but I thought that if I was online, I would be more accountable for what I was doing. Because sometimes we don't do exactly what we need to do for ourselves, but we'll do it for other people. And like that little quote, excuse me, talking too much again. Pardon me. Happiness is what happens to us when we try to make someone else happy. So that's it. That's my thought for the week. I'm going to go off and bake a few more things, melting moments for next week. I'll pop in the comments below a photo of the raspberry slice once it came out. And that's about it. Oh, excuse me, people. I apologise. The cough will go soon. Hey, Barbara, how are you? Nice to have you on the line. Anybody looking for loans? Woodford Home Loans is the place to go. Have a great night. Good week ahead, people. Take care of yourselves and each other. And look forward to catching up with you next week. Bye for now.